Good morning. So you just bought yourself your first SUV or Jeep and you want to take it off-road. And you want to know what's the minimum amount of recovery gear you should carry with you. I do get asked this question often, and it's not an easy thing to answer specifically. It really depends on your own background, your age, your comfort level of risk, and your ability to self-recover if you do find yourself in a bad situation. Obviously, if you're new to it, stick to easier paths. Maybe start off with some forest service roads. Take it easy. Join a Jeep club or an off-road association if you can. Those places can be found all over the country. It's a great place to learn from other experienced people. They're usually going to see a situation where, to prevent you from getting yourself in a bad situation ahead of time. And then you can kind of learn what to look for, what the risk factors are. And again, your level of comfort. My level of getting stuck 20 years ago is different than it is today. While I had more experience, I had a lot more ambition, strength, and everything else that is important in self-recovery, especially if you're going to play around in deep mud. But I'm going to share with you what I take, the very minimum that I'll take, and then we'll kind of layer it on top of that. So the first thing that I would say is your first area that you need to consider, and it's the most important part of your suspension as well. It's not the shocks, and it isn't your lift kit, it's your tires. Most vehicles that come from the factory, unless you've got a high-end Rubicon in the Jeep line, or the Mojave, or a TRD Pro, whatever it is, the factory tires, even their all-terrain tires, are just not good tires. They're usually, they're going to be a lower ply. They're going to have they're going to be decent tread for on-road, winter driving and stuff, rain, mostly what they're made for on-road. And you can go off-road a little bit, Forest Service roads and stuff, but you're most likely going to puncture a tire if you take it off-road into difficult terrain, especially if you get rock crawling or you take trails where there's stumps and stuff sticking out. So upgrading your tires is very, very important. And the second part of that is airing down. A lot of times you can get yourself out of a situation where you're slipping or sliding, stuck in the snow, stuck in a little bit of mud, just by airing down. That elongates your footprint, gives you more tire surface area, and oftentimes that alone is all I need to do. When I go off-road, I always air down, even on Forest Service roads, just for the comfort of the ride. It helps prevent washboards from forming. But I usually start at around 24, 26 PSI, and I'll go from there. Because I'm still on stock rims, I'll go all the way down to 15 PSI if I really need the most traction. So the first thing you need then is you need a way to air down. That could be as simple as something like this, that you can depress the valve stem and just let the air out until you get to the PSI that you want. Nice thing about the Jeeps, and I think some of the other ones have it too, with the monitors your tire pressure as you're letting it down. You can see what you're at, so you don't always even have to have a gauge with you. The next thing, and this is what I use almost all the time now, is this system. This one was by Rhino Company. I bought these. But these little things, you can preset them to a mark, and I've got mine preset at 26 PSI. I screw these on, I walk away, I come back when they're done, and they're all within a pound or two of 26 PSI. And that's where I start. And then if I need to go any further than that, I usually use that to go down as low as I want to go. But most of the time, 26 PSI is all I need to run. After that, you need a way to air up. And again, you don't have to spend a lot of money to start with, especially if you're still on factory tires or factory size tires, say 33 or smaller. This little Milwaukee compressor, I've used this thing for a number of years. It's a 12 volt. It does well up to about a 33-inch tire. 33 is kind of at the max, just because it's going to take you 25 minutes or so to air up. But what I like about this is, I got a lot of Milwaukee batteries, so I don't have to buy more. You can get this for like 75 bucks. The hose and everything is right on it, right? So you don't have to carry extra hoses. You don't have to deal with all that other hookup. It's lightweight, packs weight easily. I've upgraded now to this one as I put the 35s on. This has got a cooler on it, a fan, so it runs even in hot weather, constant. I don't have to turn it off. That one can overheat and you have to turn it, wait a few minutes for it to cool down. This one has a number of presets. Both of these are quiet enough so you can talk while you're doing it. I find this one, you know, when I go with my friends and they've got a dual compressor system and they've got the hoses and they can hook up all four at one time, we usually get done about the same time. So this thing is pretty fast. And again, I got 35-inch tires. A lot of them have 37s, so I'm not saying that's faster than the next level, but it works good enough for me and I don't need to invest any more money. And I got the batteries, so that's the key. So after you've taken care of your tires, the next thing you want in your recovery gear, for myself, is usually when you get stuck, or at least when I get stuck in the terrain that I run, it's because you've gone too deep and you're now hung up underneath the frame of the vehicle. So obviously, taller tires and a lift kit can help in that scenario. That's why you need to know what kind of obstacles are on the trail that you're going to run. If it's mud and snow, you know, snow is pretty easy to get out of, just because you can dig your way out, which is my next recovery gear. It's just a good old-fashioned shovel. And I prefer a long-handled shovel. I can reach underneath the vehicle all the way around. I don't have to, it's mechanically, you got an advantage with the leverage on the longer handle. And I'm too old to be bending over on my knees all the time, shoveling under the truck. So this is what I use. I'm due for a new one here. Nothing fancy. You don't have to, you're not lifting your car with it. Just get yourself a good shovel that you can afford and go from there. So then in the recovery mode, the other minimum thing you need is a way to be able to pull yourself out or have someone help pull you out. Generally, it's kind of courtesy that you carry your own recovery gear and you use your recovery gear, even if someone else is pulling you out. You want to use your gear and not theirs in case you break it. So there's a number of different things that you can have. Don't underestimate the importance of gloves. These are my winter ones that I throw in there, and I got a summer pair when it's warmer weather. Gloves are so important. If you cut your hands, which I've done on a number of different things, you can have a situation where you got an infection and you're out in the backcountry and it can ruin your trip real quick. This is what they call a Kinetic rope. This is one from a company called Viver. This is a 7/8 inch diameter rope, and this one is rated at about 22,000 pounds. So how this works is that it stretches out, and kinetically it creates an advantage, and then it kind of springboards the stuck vehicle out. You need to know where you can attach this, where your recovery points are on your vehicle. On a Jeep, it's very easy. TRD Pro, a lot of those, you know, Ford, Raptor, whatever you have, they have recovery points on both the front and the back. And don't just hook it up anywhere. You need to hook it up to a recovery point. Soft shackles, these make it easy to make that connection. You never want to go metal to metal if you can help it. I do carry extra ones of these also, plus the ones that are in the front. If you're going to use a winch, and we'll get into winching later, then I definitely recommend one of these. You weight this down with rocks or sand or whatever you can. You put it over the line and it prevents it. So if the line does snap, it hopefully has it go down and not whip back through your windshield. With the today's winches, and if you're using a synthetic line, the risk isn't as great as it is if you have a metal cable. However, it still can be very dangerous, and so you really need to know what you're doing. I don't recommend a winch in the beginning for someone. Really, you need some experience. You need to learn how to self-recover without a winch first. Not going alone is also key. 2 people with a rope like this, and you're going to be able to get yourself out of almost every situation that you can encounter. Obviously, there's trail conditions like side hills, mountains you could slide. And recovery might not necessarily be that you're stuck. It could be some other scenario. But that's why going alone is never a good idea. And I always like to have 2 vehicles, because even in worst case scenario, you can get out in one vehicle and leave the other to go and get help if you have to. But that's what I carry. My fourth item that I bring, and this one is, you don't necessarily need this to start with, but I always bring these along, and it's just a traction board, right? So I happen to make my own traction boards. I think these are better, superior in a lot of ways. As you can see, the spikes run down underneath. That gives me a good purchase on just about any terrain. The bolts stick up high enough that my tires always get a good grip on them. I just hook up this little recovery gear so I can yank these out of the mud or muck without having to walk in there and get them again. Yeah, so these are really nice. You get yourself a 2x10, cut it in half again. This is like a 24-inch size. I find this to be really, really efficient. Of course, if you want them a little longer, you can do that. The disadvantage to these is they're heavier and they can be more difficult to store, right? But for me, they just sit on the top of my truck bed. They never moved. All the way out to Wyoming, back, all the off-roading I've done since I made these, they literally just sit there. I don't even have to strap them down, and they don't move around. So that's it. That's the minimum gear that I carry. You notice I didn't include any tools in here, and that's maybe a debatable topic. Again, it really depends on, well, carrying tools, if you don't know what to do with them, is useless. It's just extra weight, unless you're hoping that a mechanic just magically comes along to fix it for you. I think a good cell phone and a some way that you can call for help if you need to. Again, that's where having another vehicle with you is important. Sticking to trails that match your current skill level. Don't start on difficult trails if you're not ready to handle them. Even the best setup Jeep or off-road vehicle can get stuck. It doesn't mean that you're a bad driver. In fact, if you do it enough, you're going to get stuck a lot, and that's part of the fun. So that's the minimum gear that I always take with me. Again, to recap, a way to air up and air down my tires. I have good tires on to begin with, all-terrain off-road tires, ones that are meant 10-ply minimum. 10-ply is my sidewall minimum that I go with. If you're really going to go, you want to get into heavy off-road a lot, over all different types of terrain, mud terrain tires are probably worth the price. The disadvantage there is your road driving experience is a little bit worse. They're going to be a little louder, and you're not going to get as good a gas mileage, and they're going to wear a little bit quicker. But other than that, if they make some really good all-terrain tires now that are truly like a hybrid, like the AT3s, the Toyota AT3s that I'm running. I really love them. They did really well off-road. They're not as good as the Falcon mud trains that I had, but again, honestly, they've gotten me through everything that I was going to go through and wanted to go through. So yeah, and they make the on-road performance and driving to long distance so much better. So you got the tires, you got where to air up and air down. You've got a recovery Kinetic rope at the minimum, a toe strap. Toe strap isn't necessary for recovering, although it can be. Toe straps don't stretch. I do carry those too. They're actually in my truck right now. This is just gear that I only bring when I'm going. The toe strap I keep in there all the time. They have a different purpose. They're not necessarily meant for recovery, but if you do get stuck and have to get towed out, then that's where you want to use one of those for. Good set of gloves, and then of course the shovel. And you're going to find with some experience, you'll be able to get yourself out of just about any situation that you find yourself in. So, okay, hope this was helpful. Good luck. See you on the trail.